The vastness of space was quiet, calm, an endless expanse of stars and galaxies stretching beyond comprehension. But the silence was shattered and the alien fleet encountered something they never could have anticipated, a human warship. It was small compared to their massive armadas, but it was approaching at an astonishing speed, moving in ways that defied all logic. Commander Velayer of the Skarathi fleet narrowed his eyes, studying the ship through his advanced sensors. It was just one vessel, human-made, yet the power it radiated was undeniable. It shouldn't have been possible for a species like this to produce such a ship. Human technology had always been seen as crude, inferior. But as he analyzed the trajectory of the ship, something didn't add up. Scanners report that the human warship is maneuvering at a level far beyond what we anticipated, said one of his officers, their voice laced with confusion. Velayer's brow furrowed. What do you mean, beyond? It's outclassing our most advanced interceptors, the officer replied, stunned. How is that even possible? Velayer's mind raced. This wasn't what they expected. His species, the Skarathi, were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology and military prowess. They had conquered countless worlds, but now, they faced something that made no sense. The Skarathi fleet slowed, preparing to make contact with the human ship. They had studied human culture, anticipating an easy victory. The humans were known for their resourcefulness, sure, but their ships had always been outdated and fragile. Velayer had assumed this would be a simple confrontation, an opportunity to test their dominance. But what they encountered instead was nothing like they had imagined. The human warship's shields rippled like liquid as a barrage of alien fire struck, the ship's exterior pulsing with a strange energy that made it nearly invulnerable to their attacks. Velayer's tactical officer gasped in disbelief. This ship, it's not just a warship, the officer muttered, it's alive. Velayer felt a shiver run down his spine. No, this wasn't possible. How could a race so primitive manage to develop technology like this? And why had it taken them so long to understand? The human ship wasn't simply surviving the alien assault, it was adapting. The shields adjusted and recalibrated at an astonishing rate. The weapons fired back, not with typical laser blasts, but with a kind of energy that disrupted the alien ship's power systems. The Skarathi ships began to shake, their systems malfunctioning in response to the unexpected human weaponry. Fall back. Velayer barked, though he knew it was too late. The battle had already shifted in a way he couldn't understand. And then, just as it seemed that defeat was imminent for the alien fleet, the human warship unleashed one final, unexpected maneuver. It twisted in a way that no ship, no matter how advanced, should have been able to do. It shot forward with terrifying speed, slicing through the alien fleet like a blade through paper. The Skarathi fleet, momentarily disoriented, scrambled to regain their bearings. The human warship had defied all expectations, leaving them in shock. This wasn't a primitive species, it was something far more dangerous. Velayer stared out at the human ship, unable to process what had just occurred. The initial shock of encountering humanity's power was overwhelming. He had thought they were a mere footnote in the galaxy's history, a species to be easily crushed. But now, staring at their warship's near invincibility, the realization struck him like a bolt of lightning: they had made a grave mistake. For the first time in Velayer's life, he was afraid. Afraid of what humanity was capable of. The Skarathi fleet regrouped quickly, though the unease lingering in their minds was palpable. For the first time in a long while, they were not in control. Commander Velayer's normally steady hand trembled ever so slightly as he commanded his officers to prepare for the next wave of battle. "We must adapt," Velayer said, his voice sharp, trying to steady himself. "The humans are not what we thought. We have underestimated them, and that will not happen again." "Commander," a tactical officer called out, "we've been analyzing their movements. Their ship, it seems to anticipate our every move. It's not just their technology, it's as if they can predict our strategy. Velair's eyes narrowed. Can we break their communications? We need to know how they're doing this. No. All systems are encrypted. We can't intercept their signals. It's too advanced for our tech, the officer replied. Velair cursed under his breath. This wasn't just an enemy, they were a puzzle. The humans had somehow bridged the gap between technology and instinct. And that unnerving blend was making them unpredictable. The warship that had first engaged them, still holding its own against a vastly superior force, was now joined by others. Hundreds of them, each one looking smaller from a distance but radiating an aura of strength that set the entire Skarathi fleet on edge. Across the battlefield, the humans weren't merely defending, they were attacking, relentlessly. Every maneuver was deliberate, like they were a single organism acting in perfect harmony, every ship synced with an unseen force. Velair's thoughts raced. How could this be possible? Humans were known to fight with heart, but they had never exhibited this level of tactical mastery. As the alien ships attempted to retaliate, the human warships began to pick them off one by one, not through sheer force, but by exploiting weaknesses that Velair hadn't even realized were there. It was like they were being guided by something, or someone, who could see the battlefield through a different lens, a lens the Skarathi had no access to. Commander, the humans are winning. Our ships are taking critical hits, and we're losing more every minute, one of Velair's officers reported. Velair slammed his fist onto the console. This is madness. We cannot lose to these primitive beings. Prepare the final assault. But as the Skarathi fleet gathered its forces for one last stand, Velair's mind churned with thoughts he couldn't fully process. What had gone wrong? What had they missed? How had humanity evolved so quickly, so unexpectedly? And then, as if the universe itself had conspired to bring clarity to his fogged mind, a transmission crackled through to his ship. It was a human signal, encrypted, yet strangely, unmistakably clear. Commander Velair, a calm, steady voice said through the comms. We know you're out there. We know what you're doing. And we want you to understand one thing before you make your next move. We are not like the others you've conquered. Velair's heart skipped a beat. The audacity of this message, it was chilling. Do not misunderstand us, the voice continued. We are not here for conquest. We are not here to take what you have. We are here because we believe that you have something we need. And you need something from us. The sooner you understand that, the sooner we can end this conflict. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Velair in stunned silence. He stared at the screen, unable to speak for a moment. His officers exchanged uncertain glances. What are they playing at? One of them muttered. Velair's mind raced, but something deep inside him shifted. The humans weren't fighting out of desperation or blind rage. They were fighting with purpose, perhaps even wisdom. And the words in the transmission, "We are not here for conquest," struck a chord with him. Was this war truly necessary? Had they been too quick to judge the humans? Velair clenched his jaw. He couldn't afford to think this way. His fleet was still in danger, but there was something about the human message that made him uneasy, like he was missing a key part of the puzzle. "Commander, what should we do?" one of his officers asked, waiting for orders. Velair stood tall, his mind sharp with renewed determination. "We will continue the battle. But we will also try to understand them. Something about this situation has changed, and we need to see it through." The battle raged on, but now, in the midst of it all, the Skarathi commander had a new question echoing in his mind. What was it that the humans truly wanted, and why did it feel like they were not just fighting to survive, but to teach them something far more significant? The battle continued to rage, but now a strange stillness had settled within Commander Velair. His fleet was slowly being pushed back, but his thoughts were elsewhere. The human transmission played over and over in his mind, echoing in the quiet moments between the chaos of the war. "We are not here for conquest," he whispered to himself, his voice almost a plea. The Skarathi fleet was down to half its original size, and the humans seemed to have anticipated every move. Velayer stood at the command center, staring at the holographic map of the battlefield, watching as his forces were systematically dismantled. It was clear now that the humans weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting with a purpose, one far beyond what the Skarathi had imagined. Suddenly, a new transmission crackled through. Velayer's eyes widened as the words filtered through his ship's systems. It was the same voice from before, the calm, steady human voice. "Commander Velayer, you're beginning to understand," the voice said. "The question is, will you listen?" A chill ran down Velayer's spine. This was no ordinary battle. The humans had access to knowledge, intelligence, and strategy that the Skarathi simply couldn't match. Yet, they weren't behaving as conquerors. They were speaking to Velayer, as if they were aware of something he had yet to grasp. "Enough of this," Velayer muttered, slamming his fist down on the control panel. "What is it you want from us? Why are you doing this?" The human voice responded, and this time, the words seemed to hit with greater force. "We are not here for what you think. We are here because your civilization is standing on the precipice of a choice that could define the future of this galaxy. We've seen it before, Commander, in other worlds, other species. We're here because we are offering you the chance to change course before it's too late." Velayer's mind reeled. Change course? Was the human fleet trying to prevent the Skarathi from making a critical mistake? Was this about more than just war? Something about the way the humans spoke, the urgency in their tone, made Velayer reconsider everything he had believed about their intentions. His tactical officer stepped forward, his face tense. "Commander, the humans are moving toward the heart of our fleet. They're not engaging, they're just observing. What should we do?" Velayer's instincts screamed at him to act, but now, with every passing moment, his doubt grew. These humans were unlike anything he had encountered. They didn't fight like the others, they fought with a higher purpose. And that purpose had yet to be revealed. "We need to pull back," Velayer said finally, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. "All ships, fall back. I need time to think." As the Skarathi fleet withdrew, there was a momentary lull in the battle. The humans did not pursue. They watched, almost as if waiting for something. Velayer stood silently at the command center, his eyes searching the viewscreen for answers. There was something unnerving about the way the human warships just hovered, their presence a silent challenge. "Commander, we have decoded part of the human transmission," one of the officers announced, breaking the silence. "It appears, they are not just offering peace. They are offering a warning, a choice." Velayer turned sharply. "What kind of choice?" The officer hesitated. "It's unclear. But it seems that the humans have been through this before. They've seen other species, other civilizations, make the same mistake we're about to make. A mistake that leads to extinction." The word hit Velayer like a blow. Extinction. The very thought of it caused a chill to spread across his spine. He had always believed the Skarathi to be an unstoppable force, that their technological superiority and sheer willpower would carry them through any conflict. But now, facing the possibility of destruction, of annihilation, he wondered if his entire worldview had been wrong. "How can we possibly be facing extinction?" Velayer asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The officer opened a new display on the console, showing images of other worlds that had been ravaged by war, their civilizations wiped out. "The humans have seen this before, Commander. They've witnessed species who thought they were invincible, who ignored the warning signs until it was too late. It's a pattern. A cycle of destruction that repeats itself." Velayer's eyes darted from the images to the holographic map of the battlefield. For the first time, he truly saw the gravity of the situation. This was not just a war of conquest, it was a battle for survival. The humans weren't just defending their home, they were trying to stop the Skarathi from repeating the same mistakes that had doomed other civilizations. The weight of the revelation hit Velair hard. The humans had been right all along. The Skarathi had underestimated them, and now they were paying the price. A new transmission came through. This time, it was not the calm voice of the human leader, but a direct message from the human fleet's commander. "Commander Velair," the voice said, "I hope you're beginning to understand. Your people are at a crossroads. You can continue this senseless destruction, or you can stop and listen. We are not your enemies, but if you choose war, we will not hesitate to protect what we hold dear. The choice is yours." Velair stood there, his fists clenched. He had been so focused on winning, on defeating the humans, that he had never stopped to consider what might happen if they failed. What if they were right? What if the Skarathi were making the same mistakes that others had made before? "Commander," one of his officers said, his voice trembling, "what do we do now?" Velair looked around at his officers, his fleet, his people. For the first time, he realized that their survival wasn't guaranteed. He had to make a choice. A choice that would shape not just the future of the Skarathi, but the future of the entire galaxy. And with that, he made his decision. "We will listen," Velair said, his voice resolute. "Prepare a ceasefire. We need to hear what they have to say." The ceasefire was agreed upon, and the Skarathi fleet halted their advance, retreating into a defensive formation. In the eerie silence that followed, Velair felt as if the weight of the universe had fallen on his shoulders. Every decision, every action from this point forward would determine the fate of his people. He had to be cautious, but the humans had already shown a depth of wisdom that no one had expected. As Velair waited in the command center, the room was filled with anxious murmurs from his officers. The humans had asked for a direct transmission, but they hadn't specified the details. No one knew what to expect. Finally, the display flickered to life. The face that appeared on the screen was calm and composed, with sharp, discerning eyes that seemed to carry the weight of years of experience. The human commander, a woman named Captain Lara, stared directly into the camera, her gaze unwavering. "Commander Velair," she began, her voice steady, yet filled with an undercurrent of resolve, "thank you for agreeing to hear us out. We didn't come here for war, but we will fight to protect our future if necessary. You have a choice, but make no mistake, time is running out." Velair couldn't help but feel the force of her words. It wasn't an empty threat, but a warning from someone who had seen what happened when a species failed to heed the lessons of the past. "You mentioned a choice," Velair said, his voice thick with the weight of the decision. "What is this choice you speak of? What are we truly facing?" Captain Lara's expression softened, and she leaned forward, her hands clasped before her. "The choice is this: you can either continue down the path of destruction, or you can change. You can evolve, learn from the mistakes of other civilizations, and join a coalition of species dedicated to peace and coexistence. But that path is not an easy one." Velair's brow furrowed. "Evolve? You expect us to change overnight? Do you not know who we are? The Skarathi have always been conquerors. It is in our blood. How can we just abandon everything we've known?" Lara's eyes glimmered with understanding. "I know change is hard. But it is necessary. The fate of every species that has come before you, species far older than your empire, reminds us of this truth. You may think you are strong now, but all the strength in the universe won't save you from a pattern that leads to your extinction. That's the choice: evolve, or perish." The word struck Velair like a physical blow. His entire life, and the history of his people, had been built on the idea of superiority, dominance, and conquest. But now, facing this human commander and hearing her speak with such clarity, a seed of doubt began to sprout in his mind. Could it be true? Could the Skarathi be following a path that would lead to their destruction? He closed his eyes, struggling to reconcile what he had been taught with the reality now unfolding before him. And if we choose to join you, what then? What will you ask of us? Captain Lara's gaze softened further. We don't seek your subjugation, Commander. We ask for cooperation, for unity. But first, you must demonstrate that your people are willing to put aside their old ways. You must prove that you can coexist with others, with respect for life and peace. And that means stopping the war and agreeing to an open dialogue. Velair's mind raced. To stop the war would mean to defy everything he had ever known. But at what cost? If the Skarathi didn't change, what was the point of victory? The destruction of an entire species? The thought of that weight on his shoulders was unbearable. He glanced at his officers, who were watching the exchange in silence. Many were tense, uncertain about this new direction. Some still held on to the idea of victory at any cost. But others, those who had seen the devastation of their past wars, seemed to sense the gravity of the situation. Finally, Velair spoke, his voice heavy with resolve. I will consult with my people. I cannot make this decision alone. You ask for peace, but my people must be convinced. I will return to you once we have reached a consensus. Captain Lara nodded. I understand. But time is not on your side. You may think you have all the time in the universe, but the universe has a way of reminding us when we're out of time. With that, the transmission ended, leaving Velair in the cold silence of his command center. The reality of the decision before him felt overwhelming. The Skarathi were at a crossroads, and the choice would not only affect them but ripple out into the entire galaxy. The Council's debate. That evening, Velair gathered his council in the war room, the dim lights casting long shadows over their faces. The mood was somber, and the tension was palpable. This wasn't just about a ceasefire, it was about everything they had fought for, everything they had believed in. The humans want peace, Velair began, his voice low and steady. They're offering us a choice, but it's not one I ever imagined. They want us to change, to abandon the ways of conquest and join a coalition of peaceful civilizations. A murmur ran through the council. Some of the officers exchanged uneasy glances, while others shook their heads in disbelief. How can we abandon our ways? General Vale, one of Velair's oldest friends, spoke up. We've fought for centuries. We've built this empire with blood and steel. And now they want us to abandon everything? I don't believe they're asking us to abandon our strength, Velair said, his voice carrying a quiet intensity. They're asking us to evolve. To understand that there's more to life than conquest. The humans, they've seen what happens when a species doesn't change. They've witnessed entire civilizations fall. General Vale scoffed. We are not like those civilizations. We are the Skarathi. We cannot be defeated. Velair's gaze hardened. We are not invincible, Vale. If we continue this path, we will bring about our own extinction. The room fell silent. The weight of Velair's words hung in the air, and for the first time, the council was forced to confront the reality that perhaps they had been wrong all along. Perhaps there was another way, a way that didn't involve endless war and destruction. As the debate continued into the night, Velair felt the full burden of leadership. He had to decide not only the future of his people but the future of the galaxy itself. Would the Skarathi embrace change, or would they continue down the road of self-destruction? The decision was no longer a matter of war strategy, it had become a matter of survival for the Skarathi. As Velair stared out into the black expanse of space, the quiet hum of the command center around him felt eerily peaceful, too peaceful, given the storm brewing inside his mind. He knew the time had come for a choice to be made. But how could he convince his people to turn away from everything they had known, everything they had fought for, and embrace the unknown? Over the following days, Velair convened more meetings with his council, each one more heated than the last. General Vale remained resolute, vehemently rejecting the idea of peace and cooperation with the humans. Others, however, began to show cracks in their once solid stance. A few voiced concerns over the Skarathi's future, echoing Velair's own growing doubts. The debate reached its apex when Velair called a private meeting with his closest allies, those who had stood by his side through countless campaigns. Among them was Tira, a seasoned officer known for her tactical brilliance and unwavering loyalty to Velair. She had seen the horrors of war firsthand, and her scars, both visible and hidden, told the story of a life spent in conflict. "I don't like this, Velair," Tira said, her voice thick with the weight of experience. "The humans may talk of peace, but we don't know if they can be trusted. What if this is a trap? What if they're trying to weaken us before striking the final blow?" Velair turned to her, his gaze intense but tired. "I've considered that possibility, Tira. I've weighed every angle. But I can't ignore the truth, we've come to the edge of the abyss. If we continue down this path, we won't survive the next war. The humans may be our only chance." Tira remained silent for a long moment, her eyes searching his face as if trying to find something she had missed. Finally, she spoke. "So what's your plan? You want us to drop our weapons and walk into their arms? Trust them just like that?" Velair nodded slowly, his expression grim. "Not just trust. Prove that we're ready to change. The humans say we must show them that we can coexist, not just by words but by actions. If we take this first step, we'll be tested. But if we fail, if we can't make it work, the entire galaxy will condemn us." Tira's expression softened slightly, but doubt still lingered in her eyes. "I can't say I'm convinced, Velair. But I trust you. If you think this is the only way, then we'll follow. But remember this, peace doesn't come easy. It's fragile. One wrong move, and it could all fall apart." Velair exhaled sharply, feeling the weight of the burden growing heavier by the second. "I know, Tira. But it's a chance we have to take. The human proposition." With his decision made, Velair sent a transmission to Captain Lara. This time, his voice carried a sense of finality, a decision forged not in haste but in the quiet desperation of a leader who could no longer ignore the reality of his people's future. "Captain Lara," Velair began, his tone steady. "We are willing to take the first step toward peace. We agree to cease hostilities, effective immediately. But there is one condition. We require a demonstration, an action that will show us that this isn't just a trap, but a genuine opportunity." Lara's face appeared on the screen, her expression unreadable, but her eyes betrayed a hint of surprise. "What kind of demonstration are you asking for, Commander?" "We are willing to negotiate," Velair said. "But we need to see that your coalition is not just a collection of species, but a united front capable of offering us something real. Something that proves your promises. You ask for trust, but trust is earned, Captain." Lara was silent for a moment, her fingers tapping rhythmically against her console. Then she spoke, her voice calm but firm. "We will send an emissary to your ship. A representative of the coalition, someone who will be our voice and offer proof of the sincerity of our intentions." Velair nodded, though he could sense the unease building in his chest. This was the moment when everything could go right, or everything could fall apart. The arrival of the emissary. 2 days later, the Skarathi flagship's bay doors opened to reveal a shuttle descending from the human fleet. The ship was small but well constructed, a far cry from the massive warships Velair's people had come to expect. As the shuttle landed with a soft thud, the tension in the air was palpable. Velair stood at the top of the ramp, his body tense, his eyes scanning the new arrivals. Captain Lara had sent her emissary, and Velair couldn't help but wonder what this meeting would reveal. The shuttle doors slid open with a mechanical hiss, revealing a single human figure dressed in simple clothing, far from the uniform of a typical soldier or diplomat. The emissary was a man, older than Velayer had expected, with silver-gray hair and a weathered face that carried the weight of many years of experience. His eyes, however, were sharp and filled with a quiet determination. "Commander Velayer," the emissary spoke, his voice carrying a calm authority. "My name is Elder Rowan, and I represent the Coalition of Free Species. I come to speak with you not as a leader of war, but as a fellow sentient being who understands the cost of violence." Velayer's gaze never left Rowan's face. There was something about the man's presence, something unspoken, that made Velayer hesitate. For the first time in what felt like years, he found himself questioning his convictions. Was this human truly here for peace? Or was this a calculated move, a final attempt to deceive the Skarathi into submission? "Peace," Velayer echoed softly, his voice almost bitter. "Peace is a costly thing, Elder. How can I know you are not here to destroy us, to make us bow to your will?" Rowan met his gaze, unwavering. "You cannot know with certainty, Commander. Trust is not something that can be given freely, it must be earned. But I offer you my word, and the word of the Coalition, that our intent is genuine. No one will force you to bow. But we will offer you a hand of cooperation, if you are willing to reach for it." The words hung in the air, the weight of the decision pressing down on Velayer's shoulders. Was this the moment to change the fate of his people? Could he take that first step into the unknown? The atmosphere aboard the Skarathi flagship felt heavy with uncertainty as Elder Rowan was escorted to the war room. Velayer's mind raced as he observed the human emissary, the weight of the Skarathi's future resting on this single meeting. Every word, every gesture from this man could either seal the fate of their people or mark the beginning of their downfall. The stakes could not have been higher. Rowan's calm demeanor was a sharp contrast to the tension swirling around him. As he entered the room, his eyes met Velayer's with a quiet, almost knowing gaze. The Skarathi leader motioned for him to sit, his hands clasped tightly in front of him as if to maintain control over the storm raging inside. "Elder Rowan," Velayer said, his voice steady, but betraying the conflict stirring within. "Your people have made many promises. I've listened to your words, but I must ask, what proof do you have that your coalition truly desires peace and not simply our submission?" Rowan regarded him for a moment, a deep understanding in his eyes. "You are a leader who understands the weight of decisions, Commander," he said, his voice calm and clear. "But sometimes, the proof we seek cannot be found in weapons or treaties. Sometimes, it's found in the willingness to take a risk. A willingness to trust when trust is the hardest thing to give." Velayer's gaze hardened. "And what risk are you asking me to take, Rowan?" Rowan took a deep breath, steadying himself as though preparing to reveal something that could shatter the fragile peace they were attempting to build. "I am here not only to represent my people but to offer something more, something that could change the course of history for both our species. A weapon. A weapon that your people have never seen before." Velayer's mind raced. A weapon? His heart pounded in his chest. This could either be a trap, or the ultimate test of faith. A weapon? Velayer echoed, his voice barely above a whisper. Rowan nodded slowly, his expression grave. "It's not a weapon of destruction, but a weapon of survival. Something we've kept hidden, a tool that can alter the balance of power in the galaxy. But its consequences are far-reaching. It's a gift we can give you, if you are willing to take it. A weapon that could alter the balance of power." The words burned in Velayer's mind. What could such a weapon mean for his people? Could it be the key to survival, or the beginning of something far worse? The gift revealed. As Velayer stared at the human emissary, every instinct screamed at him to reject the offer. But deep down, he knew that the Skarathi had no other choice. They had lost too many battles, too many warriors, and too much hope. If this weapon could truly tip the scales, it could mean the salvation of his people. Rowan reached into his coat, pulling out a small, cylindrical device no larger than a human hand. He placed it on the table in front of Velair, his eyes never leaving the Skarathi leader's face. "This is a device we call the Nexus Orb," Rowan explained, his voice low and filled with quiet reverence. "It can tap into the very core of your people's most ancient power, your ability to connect with the stars. The Skarathi have long relied on their military strength, but there is more to your species than just conquest. This device will allow you to access your true potential, your ability to harness the cosmic energy that flows through the universe. The Nexus Orb will connect you to that power, and in doing so, it will make your species stronger than you could ever imagine." Velair leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the device. His mind buzzed with questions. "And what do you want in exchange for this power?" he asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. Rowan's expression remained calm. "We want nothing but peace. We want your people to thrive, not through domination, but through unity. This power will give you the strength to protect your own, but it will also give you the wisdom to protect others. The Nexus Orb will change you, Velair. It will change your people. But you must decide whether you are ready for it." The dilemma. The weight of the decision hung heavy in the air. Velair knew that the Nexus Orb could provide the Skarathi with a power unmatched by any other species, but he also understood the dangers of relying too heavily on such a gift. The temptation to dominate, to use the power for conquest, would always be there. Would his people be able to resist it? Or would the orb corrupt them as it had corrupted so many before them? For the first time in years, Velair felt a deep sense of doubt creeping into his mind. Was he ready to lead his people into this new era, one where peace might actually be within their grasp? Or would he fall prey to the same arrogance and hubris that had brought the Skarathi to the brink of extinction in the first place? The question gnawed at him, and his gaze shifted to Tira, who had been silent throughout the meeting. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, they shared a silent understanding. "Velair," Tira said, her voice low but firm. "I've fought in countless battles. I've seen what power can do to those who wield it. But I also know that without it, we stand to lose everything. This device, this Nexus Orb, could be the key to saving our people. But it's not just about power. It's about what we choose to do with it. The choice is ours, and we cannot let fear dictate our future." Velair nodded slowly, his mind made up. "I will take the Nexus Orb, Rowan. But understand this is not just about power. If we accept your gift, we will do so on our own terms. We will build our future with it, not as conquerors, but as protectors." Rowan's expression softened, and he offered a slight nod. "That's all we ask, Commander. Use the power wisely, and the future will be yours." The decision. As Rowan left the room, leaving Velair with the Nexus Orb, the Skarathi leader felt a mix of hope and trepidation. The path ahead was uncertain, and the temptation to misuse the orb would always be a threat. But he knew that the Skarathi could not survive on their old ways of conquest alone. It was time to change. Time to evolve. With the orb in his hands, Velair stood at the window of his ship, gazing out at the stars. The galaxy seemed both infinite and fragile, full of both dangers and possibilities. The choice had been made, but it was just the beginning. The true test would come when the power of the Nexus Orb was put to the test. Would the Skarathi rise to meet it, or would they fall into the same traps that had destroyed so many before them? The battlefield lay silent, save for the occasional hum of ship systems recovering from the chaos. The once hostile alien fleet now moved in careful formation alongside the human warship, a sight neither side would have thought possible just hours before. Wreckage from the greater enemy, the true threat that had forced this unexpected alliance, drifted in the void, a stark reminder of the consequences of arrogance and division. The human captain stood on the bridge, watching as the alien leaders appeared on the communication screen. The tension that had once existed between them had transformed into something different. It wasn't quite trust, not yet, but it was understanding. This was not the outcome we expected, one of the alien commanders admitted. We assumed you were weak. Primitive. But now, I see that our assumptions nearly led to our destruction. The human captain nodded. We've been underestimated before, they said, their voice calm but firm. It's in our nature to survive, to adapt. And when necessary, to fight. But war isn't what defines us. We fight to protect, not to conquer. There was a long pause before another alien leader spoke. Perhaps, we have more to learn from you than we realized. The bridge crew exchanged glances, sensing the shift. The once hostile aliens were now seeing humanity in a new light, not just as warriors, but as something more. The warship's actions had spoken louder than any words could. A new beginning. As the warship and the alien fleet prepared to part ways, a final message was exchanged. The aliens extended an offer, a diplomatic meeting, the first of its kind between their species and humanity. What had started as an inevitable battle had become the foundation of something greater. The human captain accepted. We don't have to be enemies. We can learn from each other. And next time, when a greater threat comes, we'll stand together. With that, the once bitter adversaries turned their ships, each heading toward an uncertain but hopeful future. The final reflection. As the warship sailed through the stars, the captain stood alone in the observation deck, staring out at the infinite expanse of space. Humanity had proven itself once again, not just in battle, but in wisdom. The lesson was clear. Strength wasn't just about firepower or strategy. It was about knowing when to fight, when to show mercy, and when to seek unity. And with that thought, the warship vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed by its presence.